Hi. So I work a lot with make.com. And if you don't know make.com, it's an awesome no-code tool that lets you connect thousands and thousands of different services with each other through a visual interface. So let's say you get a record in Airtable that you want to use the text to send it in a Gmail, and you can just connect the two of them. And there are literally, I think hundreds and hundreds of services that they've already connected to each other. But sometimes, even especially for newer ones, they don't have a connection yet. So what you can do then is you can use make.com and call the API of a different service. And this is what I want to show you today, how to connect a make.com scenario with a service that's only available via API. And I'm choosing OpenRouter AI for this. This is a service that I came across yesterday and I found it really cool. So what OpenRouter lets you do is they offer you access to basically all of the language models with one account. So you create an account with OpenRouter once, and then you can use all the llamas, the OpenAI AI ones, all with one account. Yeah? And you can specify in your calls which LLM you want to run your query through. So I'd like to show you now how you can set up a connection to basically any API, but in this case, the OpenRouter API. And the first thing you need to do is, in this case, go here into keys and set up create a new key. Just give it a name and maybe set a limit. Always good to do this. And then you get this key here, right? That you can use for the connection. And what the connection would look like, you can see here in this curl statement. So this is the URL that the API connection is going to call. Then there are two headers here. One is for the content type, that should be application JSON. And then there's a second one for authorization, which should include the values bearer, the word bearer, and then the key that you just created. And once you've done this is the payload, so to speak, for the API call, where you specify which model you want to use. And then in message, that's basically your prompt. The role is user, and then the content is the prompt that you want to send. So in this case, what's the meaning of life, or summarize this string, or whatever you want to do with this. So the first thing you need to do is jump over into Make. And as I said, we have in Make, thousands and hundreds and hundreds of services already connected, but OpenRouter is not in here. So there's an OpenRouter service, but that's something else. So what you need to do is you need to choose the HTTP module from Make, and then make an API key request. So let's create this new API connection that we need to have. So first of all, we need to add our credentials. That's the API key that we just created. So we're going to call it the OpenRouter API. And so here I made a mistake for a long time. What I did here is I basically just pasted in the key that I just created. And this just didn't work because it says here that the header has to consist of two things, so there's the header, the first part of the header that's called authorization. And then there's the second part of the header. And the second part of the header isn't just the API key. It is the word bearer, the actual word bearer space, and then the key. So we need to do this here as well. So we need to paste in bearer and then the key. So, and the next thing we need to do is we need to call this, as I said, authorization. Otherwise the call will not work. So I keep this in the header. That's fine. So create this. Now your API key is saved in make.com, and you can reuse it again in any other modules where you need to call the OpenRouter API. And now we just design the API call. So what we do here is we just follow this. We just follow this URL here, put it in here. And what we want to do is not a GET request, but a POST request, because we're going to post something to the API and then get the response from the model back. So it's a POST request. Leave the headers empty. Then the body type will be raw. And here we have the second header, basically, that we need to configure. It's content type application JSON. So we need to say content type is application JSON. Yeah, in this case, we can just pick this. And now for the request content. So that's basically what we want to say to the API. And that's all this down here, minus the quotes. And we can put this in here. And we just don't want to have the meaning of life. We want to say, give me a haiku about programming. Parse the response is also important so that we can easily reuse the answer that the OpenRouter API gives us back. And let's see if this works. So let's run this scenario once, this model once. So it is running. If it takes a little time to run, it's already with a good sign. So let's see what we got here in the data. Looks good. So that is the API call that we just made. This is the URL we were calling. Here's the model that we specified. Here's the request that we specified. And this is the interesting part. So it gives you the usage that you use for this. And here is the message. Here is the haiku that the model created. And the model in this case was GPT-3. So the connection is working. We can now use our OpenRouter API connection in other scenarios. And just to show you what I did here, I created a little Airtable that has a couple of strings with varying lengths. And what I want to do in this scenario is I want to take a string from this Airtable, and then I want to check the length of this string. If it is less than 2000 characters, I want to set a variable called model to OpenAI GPT-3.5 Turbo. And if it is longer than 2000 characters, I want to set a variable called Anthropic Claude 2, because shorter text I want to run through the OpenAI API or through the OpenAI model, and longer text I want to run through Claude. And the running happens down here. So either the variable gets set at this model name or that model name, and down here I will actually run this model through the OpenRouter API that I just created. Looks just as we did before, with the only difference that the model in this text down here is not a set string, but a variable name that I'm putting in here. And then in the end, I'm going to post the result back into my Airtable. And let's give this a go as well. I'm in the way. Here we go. So let's run this once. It's getting the string from the Airtable. It has determined that this is a long string. So let's have a look in here. So the model has been set to Anthropic Claude 2. And then it has run this with Anthropic Claude 2 as the model. And here we are with the result. So here's the result: a haiku about programming, typing on a keyboard, writing as a protege, creating magic, if only. So, and the reply model was actually Claude 2. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you can connect make.com to basically any API. You just have to check in the parameters, in the documentation, how you need to structure that API call, and then add this new API to one of the HTTP API key auth requests, and then you can basically use any API you want. That's it. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate a little like, because I'm not sure how many people actually come across these kinds of videos. And as you see, it's just starting out with these. So any feedback would be very, very appreciated. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.